Good morning and welcome to Wake Up for Recovery, and thank you for joining us on this Saturday morning. My name is Chris Riddle. You might know me from Morning Edition on WOUB Public Media. You might know me from around town, or you might not know me at all. But however you know me or don't know me, I'm really happy to have you with us on this Saturday morning. We were just listening to Jose Roca on cello performing Prelude and Allemande from the Third Suite for Unaccompanied Cello by J.S. Bach. Thank you, Jose. So we come together on this Saturday morning to celebrate the John W. Clem Recovery House, its mission to help men recover from substance use disorders, and to find ways to support the important work of restoring broken lives. Over the next hour, you can chat live with Clem House personnel as we introduce you to some of the supporters of the Clem House, people who've made the Clem House possible, and people whose lives have been changed by the Clem House. Everyone who registered for this event was automatically entered into a drawing for an Acer Swift 3 laptop with a 10th Gen Intel Core processor, and we'll be announcing the results of that drawing in the chat later in the program. Also later in the program, we'll feature a performance by up-and-coming guitarist Jorma Kaukonen. You may have heard of him. So in the past, we called places like the Clem House halfway houses, but today the preferred descriptor is recovery residences. Here in Ohio, there are 97 certified organizations operating 245 properties that serve 2,080 people. Recovery housing serves individuals recovering from substance use disorders that provides an alcohol and drug-free living environment, peer support, assistance with obtaining drug addiction services, and other drug addiction recovery assistance. The Clem House is emerging as a leader in this field. The Clem House is a recovery house based on the 12-step program, along with individualized pathways to recovery. And now, please welcome Diane Pfaff, the newly appointed Executive Director of the Athens 317 Board. She'll be followed by a bit more information about recovery residences in general.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Diane Pfaff. I'm Incoming Director at the Athens Hocking-Vinton 317 Board. When I think about the Clem and the Briggs houses, I think about your logo of the tree and how appropriate that is to the important work that goes on at the houses. For me, the roots symbolize that important first step in the recovery process, putting down a solid root system for their recovery. The trunk of the tree, to me, represents that stability that comes to practice and really solidify and strengthen the recovery process. That tree trunk is what helps us weather all the inevitable ups and downs that life is going to throw our way. And finally, the canopy, that place of shade and protection. To me, this is the community of supporters that is integral to the recovery housing process. Fellow residents, past residents, the staff, board of directors, and all of the community members behind the scenes, volunteering, or contributing at a fundraiser like this are so important to the recovery process in providing support and safe refuge for people. We are all here cheering you on. Congratulations on all the hard work you've done. Thanks to everyone for being here.
I first became involved with recovery housing when I worked with a women's program in Central Ohio. There's a growing body of research around recovery housing, and it recommends that people do better when they stay longer term in recovery residences, that there be a strong element of peer support, because that's really what makes a difference within a residence. And also that it be connected to the community in meaningful ways. So being good neighbors, being part of a larger community beyond the residents themselves.
There are now standards for recovery housing. There's a national organization, the National Organization of Recovery Residences, and recently we've set up an Ohio affiliation, Ohio Recovery Housing, to set up standards so that we know that there's quality recovery residences throughout the state of Ohio. A safe place where it's not about rent or making money, it's about recovery. And that's the mission. And so we come together as peers, we support each other, and then we help other agencies who are trying to open up recovery residences with the process, mentoring them, and then helping them meet our standards.
The great thing about it is that you're surrounded by people who are doing the same thing that you're doing, right? When you have a rough day or when something's going on, you know that you can go and talk to someone that lives next door who's going through the same experience or has been through the same experience. You can kind of walk each other through it so that you're not talking to people from your old life and kind of getting dragged back into it when things aren't going the way you want them to.
A person looking for recovery housing should expect to find a property that's well maintained, some privacy within that property, but still a sense of community. They should also expect that their recovery will be talked about and planned for in a very intentional way, but also in a very personal way. But they should also expect that if they do use again, if they relapse, that they'll be connected to services and supports that will help them.
8 years ago, we did not have any sober housing. People graduated from our program and went back to the community. And, our success rates were just as good as any other treatment program. But when we added the recovery residences, it shot up from like 37% to 80%. We're sort of looking around at each other saying, why haven't we been doing this?
I don't have to hide that I'm in recovery today. I don't have to hide the situations that I've been in.
Recovery housing studies show that people who've lived in recovery housing have better outcomes related to their abstinence from alcohol and drug use, their education and employment opportunities in the community, and also their connection to family and to an overall sense of health and wellness.
When you're working on things that are like really deep and personal with you, you need to be able to come rest your head and know that your neighbor's not getting high next to you. I'm thankful that recovery housing exists because I don't know where my life would be without it.
Well, I've got to say, and I know you're probably feeling it too, but it is just a little strange having a fundraiser online. But we're doing it. We've come together on this Saturday morning. We're raising funds for a program for an organization that is truly worthy of our support, the John W. Clem House. For the past 23 years, Dr. Chris Meyer has played an active role in the Athens recovery community. He's one of the original founders of the Clem House, president of its board of directors, and an addiction medicine specialist right here in Athens. But before we hear from Dr. Meyer, I'd like to introduce Jorma Kaukonen. Jorma?
Hi, everybody. Jorma Kaukonen here. I just wanted to, thank everybody so much for supporting Clem House. I knew John Clem quite well, may he rest in peace, and he was very important to me in my early sobriety. And when he passed and they started Clem House, which they named after him, that was also hugely important to me in sobriety. And so it's a wonderful thing to have a men's residence recovery center right here in Athens. And I just can't say too much about it. So I'm going to continue to support it, and I hope you will too.
Thanks, Jorma, for that remembrance and recognition. We'll hear later from Jorma in the program when he does what Jorma does best, which is sing. Good morning. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Wake Up to Recovery. And I'd like to get started with a few words about John Clem and the recovery house that bears his name. John migrated to the Athens area in the early 90s when he followed his wife here, who was beginning her medical school career at Ohio University. He brought with him, though, a past history of alcoholism, and he was fond of saying that his life had been saved when his family finally got a net over him and forced him into a rehab center. John became a mainstay in the Athens area recovery community and an inspiration to those folks who were trying to quit drugs and alcohol. Eventually, he was appointed to the 317 board, and while on that board, he advocated for the establishment of a recovery residence for men because there was no such facility in southeastern Ohio, and the need was so great. John died before that vision could be achieved. But within a few months, the 317 board allocated some startup funds and also gave us the deed to the house on Dairy Lane for $1 a year for 50 years. And that got us all set up and started. The next big date was December 15, 2006, when Richard Briggs and I opened the house for business. You'll hear more about Richard later. We had one client that December, and unfortunately, he bailed out on us by New Year's. But we didn't let that deter us, and over the years, more than 650 men passed through the Clem House with all sorts of substance use disorders. And dozens of those men are still living sober and productive lives in the Athens community. Since that time, the Clem House developed a governing board, acquired more staff, implemented more services, hired executive directors, and even started a second facility the Briggs House. The Briggs House is a level 1 recovery residence. Level 1 means that there's no on-site supervision, and the men run the house themselves in a democratic sort of way and build in the structure that's needed to continue their lives in recovery. This morning, you're going to hear from a number of men who were at the Clem House years ago and are still living successful lives in recovery. You're also going to hear from a few men who are just getting started at the Clem House and are learning how to live one day at a time without alcohol and drugs. You're going to hear from some of our staff members who form the backbone of the Clem House. And you'll hear from a few experts in the addiction services field who offer testimony to the Clem House for its mission and for the role it plays in restoring lives that have been hijacked by drugs and alcohol. Finally, we'll share with you some ways that you might support the Clem House if you're so inclined. So, settle back, enjoy your coffee, listen to our stories, listen to some music from Jorma Kaukonen, and you decide if the Clem House is a community resource that you might like to support. Thank you.
Previous fundraising activities allowed the Clem House to recruit an executive director. Chelsea Hackney, who has worked with this population for over 8 years, is the executive director overseeing all house operations. Good morning, Chelsea.
Good morning. My name is Chelsea Hackney, and I'm the executive director of the John W. Clem Recovery House. I would like to thank everyone for being here this morning. The Clem House opened its doors to men struggling with substance use disorders about 14 years ago, and since then we have grown and helped over 700 men. At the Clem House, we accept men from all walks of life. This includes coming from treatment centers, coming from the street. We also have men that are living with family that might need a different type of support. We also have men that come from incarceration. Many times the men that come here with absolutely nothing. This then turns expenses for us that we're happy to help out with. These expenses include not having basic necessities like a toothbrush or toothpaste, shampoo, and soap. We also have had men that have come here with nothing but the shirt on their back, so we help them find clothing. A few of our basic requirements to stay at the Clem House are attending 12-step meetings, getting a sponsor, working with that sponsor, and also gaining employment. One of the major barriers in gaining employment is not having a driver's license or having a state ID. Having these documents might not sound like a big deal to some, but to others this is a major obstacle. Many of these men come to us with no form of identification at all. That includes not having a birth certificate or social security card. And to obtain these things, it costs money, and most of the time they don't have any money because they don't have a job. It's a catch-22. To have a job, you need an ID. To have an ID, you need a job. This is where we come in with financial support until they're able to get on their feet. By the time they leave the Clem House, our goal is for them to possess all the documentation needed for them to be a productive member of the community. The average cost per month per resident is around $1,200. While the men are at the Clem House, we pay for all their basic necessities. When the coronavirus started, the expenses increased for multiple reasons. Many men were laid off from work or not able to work. They're also recommended to stay at the house more often because we didn't want the virus to spread. This increased the amount of food we had to buy and also increased the amount of utilities that were being used. On average, we recommend men stay here for at least 6 months. This amount of time really helps lay the groundwork for their recovery. While we recommend a 6-month stay, they are allowed to stay as long as they need to, as long as they are continuing to work on the recovery and follow the rules of the house. The men also have the option of going to the Briggs House. The Briggs House is a level 1 recovery house that is located in the Plains and is a step down from the Clem House. The Briggs House is a democratically run peer house, and they are responsible for holding each other accountable. The men at the Clem House have the option of going to the Briggs House once they have sustained sobriety for at least 6 months. To continue to help support men with substance use disorders, our future goals are to open a business that is connected to the Clem House. We're hoping to start possibly a lawn care business or a pressure washing business. This business would teach the men life skills they could use once leaving the Clem House. Another goal we have for the Clem House is to expand its size. We are currently able to house 12 men at a time. Most times we are full and we have a waiting list. It is our goal to add on to the house to eventually be able to hold 18 to 20 men and have an expanded area for 12-step meetings for the community as well as for the residents. We are so thankful for this community and the continued support that it has given us in the past. Without the support, we would not be able to help those affected by substance use disorders. By being here and supporting the Clem House, you are showing these men they mean something to this community, and we thank you for that.
So in case you're wondering, no, I don't live in a WOUB studio, although over the past few years it's really felt like it. It's a crazy news cycle. I spend a lot of my time here, but no, I have a normal home like everyone else. And like a lot of our homes, it can get really loud on a Saturday morning, especially if you have an opinionated hound dog. So every time one of the neighbors will walk by with their dog, you would get to hear him yelling at that dog from our windows, like an old man shaking his fist at the sky. So I thought I'd come up here and not subject you to a barking dog all morning. But I am glad to have you in the studio with me this morning, because usually I'm here all by myself. Richard Briggs has been in recovery for 26 years, and for the last 14 years, he served as the house manager at the Clem House. And as such, he is the sheriff, best friend, mentor, and peacemaker for the men who live there. The Briggs House is a level 1 recovery house on the Plains, and it's named after him. Richard will introduce us to 3 other current Clem House residents, Jonathan, Tommy, and Mike, who will tell us what it's like for them as they began their recovery journey in the last few months. Richard, good morning.
First off, my name is Richard Briggs. I'm manager of the John W. Clem Recovery House here in Dairy Lane, Athens. Before I became a member of this fellowship, I didn't have a clue how to live. I thought I did. I knew how to survive. I know that now. John W. Clem Recovery House gave me the opportunity to sit and examine where I came from. It's more than just getting sober and clean. It's an examination of one's roots, one's life. So now they have the opportunity to live like men, decent, healthy men. And we help them do that. Some of us didn't know how to do that. So that's what we're about. That's what the Clem House is about. You know, transformation.
I suffer from addiction to alcohol.
Alcohol has been the demon in my life.
The use of alcohol started, I'd say, when I was in my early 20s.
I started out around the age of 17 or 18 years old.
I've been living with drugs and alcohol for the better part of 20 years.
I am now, at this point, 48, so I have been dealing with this for probably 30 years.
What about the Clem House that helps me stay sober? It's probably the structure.
What I really enjoy here at the Clem House a lot is the camaraderie.
Being able to have some accountability, you know, that I'm just not roaming free.
Having other people that I am responsible for or responsible to, someone who holds me accountable, someone that I can talk to on a daily basis, is really a driving part of my life.
My plans for as I move on from here, I'm thinking about the Briggs House.
When I leave Clem House, I plan on going to the Briggs House.
It's the next logical step.
My name's Steve Crothers. I now work here at the Clem House. I'm the assistant house manager. I came through the Clem House in 2016, and I was with the first group of guys. I moved into Briggs House. I think it was the end of 2017, beginning of 2018. When you get to the Briggs House, it's more than just moving into Briggs House. It's still a recovery house, so that's the main focus of the Briggs House.
The Clem House here is such a great spot to have improvements, being flexible with how everybody is, improving what we do.
Like family I never had.
This is where I started, and this is where I've been, and things have really been working out for me.
It's a blessing being here. I appreciate it.
So I've been doing radio now for about 20 years. One of the best things about being on the radio is it doesn't matter what you wear. I mean, I come in at 4:30 in the morning, so no one sees me. And if they do see me, they're definitely not going to be a person who cares what I have on. So I could come in and do Morning Edition wearing a Spider-Man outfit or a Batman costume, and no one would know any better. I'm not saying that's what I do, but I'm also not saying that's not what I do. So you never know. Maybe that Monday morning newscast at 6 o'clock was delivered by Batman. You'll never know. But being in radio, I've worked with a lot of people in television news. And one of the secrets of television news anchors is, yes, they have to look good on the top half. They look good for the camera, but what the camera doesn't see doesn't really matter. So you'll see people getting ready for their show. They're going up and down the halls, going over scripts. Look great on the top. And then they're wearing a pair of flip-flops and some ratty gym shorts on the second half. It's Saturday morning, right? So, yeah, I look good for the camera on the top half. But you know what? Yeah, I came in here and so I'm wearing some pajamas and also a pair of Chuck Taylors this morning because, it's Saturday and I'm going to be comfortable. And I think if we take one thing away from this age of Zoom meetings and the time of COVID is let's all just be comfortable, at least on the second half. Well, the Clem House was the first recovery house in Ohio to receive accreditation from the Ohio Recovery Housing Organization. This distinction meant that they established criteria and passed a review of records and an on-site inspection. The Clem House goes through the accreditations process every 2 years. Their accreditation opened up opportunities for grants that they used to renovate the current building and to purchase the Briggs House on the Plains. Now a word from Sean Stover. Sean's a social worker with Job and Family Services who has worked for many years with the men and staff at the Clem House to help them prepare for work, find jobs, and support their journey to independence. Sean will be followed by Ron Luce, who was the previous executive director and is an expert in the field of substance use disorders. Ron will shed some light on the gratification he received from working with the men who are just beginning their struggle at the Clem House.
Hey, it's Sean Sturr with the Ohio Means Jobs Athens County Reentry Program, and I'd like to do a big thank you and show my support for Clem House, for all they've done for the residents and for the community. And we want to keep that going. I've seen some great success stories coming out of Clem House.
I'm Ron Luce, and I am very happy to be supporting this fundraiser for the Clem House. For those of you who don't know me, I was hired in 2013 as the Clem House's first executive director. In addition to working with the staff and the board of directors during the 5 years that I served before retiring, I had the pleasure of working with the men who came into the Clem House. And I saw many of them go through the process of recovery and move on to lead productive lives free of drugs and alcohol. What a great experience it was to see some of these men change over time. Their bodies getting healthier, they looked better, their brains began to heal, they began working on some of their mental health issues, making better decisions, working methodically through their many problems related to their substance use disorders, getting jobs, reestablishing relationships with families. I saw it and it was a wonderful experience. And I know from firsthand experience that recovery is possible and that people can get past substance use disorders and lead productive lives. But it's not easy, it's not fast, and unfortunately it's not inexpensive. What happens at Clem House takes a lot of work and time, not only for the person in early recovery, but for the staff as well. It takes a lot of training to work effectively with people in recovery. Many people who have substance use disorders also have experienced things like significant trauma, mental health issues, financial and legal issues, poor support networks, underdeveloped jobs, social and life skills. They may have difficulty in making mature decisions because of what the drugs and alcohol have done to their brains over the period of time that they've used. And they may have many, many other problems, and we have to deal with them all. Of course, we couldn't be all things to the men we serve, but we did have to be knowledgeable about recovery and all of the potential things that can enter into it. And we had to do that even if just to make competent referrals and to support the men as they struggled with these issues on a day-to-day basis. We lived with their issues. We lived with them while they tried to adjust to a new way of living amongst others in recovery and trying to acquire new ways of dealing with a world without substances. The Briggs House is a level 1 recovery house for men. It's located in the Plains, Ohio, and it helps men who, after staying at Clem House, they're far enough along in their recovery to begin the process of moving to the world again, back out into the world. And the idea is to give them time to become more self-sufficient and learn how to handle the responsibilities of daily living before having to go out completely on their own. They do this in a very nice structure, a home, at a reduced rental rate and minimal supervision in a democratically run shared living environment. Clem House and Briggs House change lives. But like all nonprofit organizations, Clem House can't run on good intentions. It takes a lot of financial support to make it work, and that's what this fundraiser is all about. So anything you give will be greatly appreciated and will play a role in saving more lives. You can make a big difference. Thank you for supporting this great cause.
As Dr. Meyer mentioned earlier, hundreds of men find help at the Clem House. But to really understand what recovery looks like, we want you to hear from Clem House graduates Brian, Ian, and Brent, and Betsy Anderson, Executive Director of Serenity Grove, the women's counterpart to the Clem House. We'll also hear from community members who understand the importance of the Clem House.
Hey, I am Betsy Anderson. I'm the Executive Director at Serenity Grove, which is the women's recovery house. Same deal as the Clem, except for women. And I want to advocate for the Clem House. We have largely modeled our transitional recovery house after what we've learned from the Clem House and observing the difference that the Clem House has made in men's lives for more than a decade. I can't say enough about the importance of transitional recovery housing, the mission that the Clem House represents, that all transitional recovery housing represents. It is a game changer for men and women who are interested in seeking recovery and rebuilding their lives. I hope that you will choose to support the Clem House and their meaningful mission.
My name is Ellen Martin. I am the CEO for Health Recovery Services.
My name is Sam Schaefer, and I'm the Chief Operating Officer with Integrated Services for Behavioral Health.
My name is Dr. James R. Gaskell.
Danielle Gray.
Steve Patterson, Mayor of Athens.
The John W. Clem Recovery House is a port in the storm of addiction afflicting southeastern Ohio.
It's a safe place for men to recover from drugs and alcohol.
While recognizing that there are many pathways to recovery,
the Clem House chooses to emphasize abstinence
and 12-step approaches to recovery,
such as Alcoholics Anonymous
and Narcotics Anonymous.
Men live at the Clem House for 6 to 12 months.
They attend daily meetings,
are assisted in finding jobs,
and gain strength from the 10 other men who are pursuing the same goals.
Those goals are sobriety,
productive lives,
and a safe return to their families.
Over the last 13 years, more than 650 men benefited from the services of the John W. Clem Recovery House.
Dozens of the men who have benefited are still living in Athens, Hocking, and Benton counties.
They're also serving as role models for those who are just now finding their way to recovery.
The John W. Clem Recovery House is a local institution
waging war against the substance use disorders on the streets of Athens.
Support the Clem House.
Support the Clem House.
Support the Clem House.
Supporting the Clem House through donations to Wake Up for Recovery.
Wake Up for Recovery.
Wake Up for Recovery.
Wake up.
Support the Clem House today.
Help make our community a better, healthier place to live.
My name is Ian.
My name is Brian Cornelius.
Hi, I'm Brent. I am a former resident of the Clem House.
I lived at the Clem House from mid-March of 2015 to the end of May 2015.
What was it like when I reached the Clem House? life for me was very confusing. I didn't know what to do with my life.
Went home to Kansas to spend Christmas with my family, and getting there, I fought it, but I eventually got on a plane and flew to Kansas, and I didn't drink for 10, 12 hours after arriving there. I went into DTs, seizures. I was so dishonest at that point in my life. I could have eased the whole situation there in front of my family having a seizure if I would have just said, I'm an alcoholic. Give me booze and I'll stop shaking. But I didn't. And so ended up going to the hospital, and fortunately I did not have a heart attack or, have any severe seizures, but the hospital, I believe, saved my life.
I knew I was going to go back to jail if I was going to stay where I was. And so naturally a 21-year-old would pick Athens to go stay sober at and stay out of jail, right? Makes a whole lot of sense.
I had no direction. It was scary. It was a scary time.
So January of 15, between there and mid-March, I got right back to where I was, drinking 30-pack of beer a day, $18.18 the BP at the bottom of Old 33, every couple of days, scoring a handle of whiskey. Day, night, work, didn't really matter. I just drank. I drank and got sick and kept drinking. It was damaging to my body and my spirit. And then come March, my family decided to send my mom out to do like an intervention and try and get me help. And so my friend Art, who owns Jackie O's Brewery, and my mom confronted me, and they basically, told me I needed to get help. And no one at that meeting knew what that really meant or how or where, but they knew, and I listened, that I needed to get help. And just a couple of phone calls, we all found out about the Clem House.
When I arrived at the Clem House, all the guys there, Richard, the staff, everyone in the house was very welcoming and helpful to get me settled in.
I remember I came over there and they didn't have a bed yet. And so I met with Arnie and we were just sitting down in the office, and then, just talking, and he was going through all the criteria, which I was well familiar, and then here in walks Richard, and I just gotten out of jail, and he is just like, ain't gonna tolerate none of that jailhouse bullshit here. And I was like, what? What? Oh my gosh. Anyway, yeah, and so that was like the intro to the Clem House.
I met with Arnie and the former director, Ron, and I don't remember a whole lot about the meeting. I remember, kind of like the feeling of like going into a dentist office, scared. But it wasn't anything like going to jail or anything like that.
What did I learn from the men at the Clem House? I learned a lot of us were in the same boat. We had no direction in life. We didn't know what to do. And I just felt like I wasn't, totally alone.
When I was there, I learned a lot about the different types of people facing the same challenges that I was. I learned that I was not that, unique. I had a lot of things in common with a lot of people some of them that had drug problems.
Came in there, I think it was April, May. It was early summer. And there was maybe 4 or 5 of us that came in right about the same time. And we just had fun that summer. You know, we would mow the lawn, you know, Richard would sit out on the stoop and, you know, make corrections. But we would toss the frisbee, we would go fishing, we would go kayaking. You know, we would go to meetings. I at that point didn't necessarily was going to meetings to, you know, do AA, but I was just going there, you know, the girls with the coffee pot and the free donuts, right? But the thing was that, you know, the stipulations, at least when I was there, was, you know, you had to get a sponsor and you had to, you know, do 5 meetings a week, whatever it was. And you had to work the steps. And that was pretty simple. Get a job, you know, don't drink, don't do drugs, don't steal stuff, right? Don't get in a fight. Pretty simple stuff.
I didn't really have many good habits. I had lots of bad habits. And being with a group of guys at the Clem was a great opportunity for me to practice the real simple things in life. Brushing my teeth and taking showers. And, you know, cleaning the house and feeling okay and taking pride in it. And just having opportunities to do things that I should be doing, as simple as they might be, you know, my laundry, going to meetings, showing up for meals, talking, having innocent fun. Real basic things.
What it felt like when I left the Clem House, very helpful there. Everybody, you know, helped everybody. I had direction. I felt like I had direction.
Yeah, I ended up going to school at Hawking, and you know, when I left the Clem and ended up getting a degree, and then, you know, I've stayed sober. You know, coming up on 8 years, and 8 years sobriety.
The long story short was I was going to become a father, and that was my new challenge, my new mission. And Annabelle came into my life. I was 13 months sober at that point, and she's a huge part of my life.
I've been living in Alaska for, I don't know, 4 years now. And, you know, just, moved in. The girlfriend bought a place, moved in with her. We got a dog.
Today, I live in Athens County still. I live on a nice property outside of town, beautiful forest, with my fiance Carrie and a 4.5-year-old daughter Annabelle. And we are actually expecting a baby son, Simon.
My life today, it's great. I have a beautiful wife, 2 boys, a great job.
I'm 30 years old. I was 21 when I went to the Clem.
I work at Jackie O's Pub and Brewery. I've been with the company for over 11 years now.
I'm in school right now, going to nursing school. And
I am forever in debt to the Clem.
I wouldn't be here without the Clem House, you know, for what that's worth. And my life's pretty damn good today.
It's just, it's great. It's good. Life is good.
Life's been good.
Life is indeed very good. Well, we hope you've enjoyed Wake Up for Recovery and that this presentation sheds some light on the types of services needed to address substance use disorders in our community. We also hope you'll conclude that the John W. Clem Recovery House is a community resource worth supporting with your dollars. Down the road, those dollars will allow us to expand our capacity to serve more men, make needed renovations to an aging facility, and provide the seed money for potential businesses that will enable our residents to develop skills while earning a paycheck toward their independence. Donations can be made on the John W. Clem Recovery House website or by mailing them to the John W. Clem Recovery House at 8044 Dairy Lane, Athens, Ohio 45701. A link to the website and the address of the John W. Clem Recovery House are posted in the chat, along with the result of the drawing for the Acer Swift 3 laptop. We'll make arrangements with the winner to deliver the laptop to you, so contact us if you see your name, and congratulations. And now please enjoy the music of Jorma Kaukonen, an inductee in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame who performed with Jefferson Airplane and still performs regularly on tour with Hot Tuna.
Just as long as I'm in this world, you know I'm the light of this world. Just as long as I'm in this world, I am the light of this world. Just as long as I'm the light of this world. Just as long as I'm in this world, you know I'm the light of this world. Well, you don't believe in Jesus, Lord, he said not a word he said. When it come all the way down Lazarus' grave and raise him from the dead. Just as long as I'm the light of this world. Just as long as I'm in this world, you know I am the light of this world. We got fiery finger, Lord, he said we got fiery hand. Get up in the hand, playing that fiery band. Just as long as I'm the light of this world. Just as long as I'm in this world, you know I'm the light of this world. Well, shout out over the water, won't be that long. Soul is anchored in, you know that world ain't gonna do me no harm. Just as long as I'm the light of this world. Just as long as I'm in this world, I'm the light of this world. I've been confirmed, Lord said, ain't ashamed. Holy Ghost is my witness, you know I ain't done signed my name. Just as long as I'm the light of this world. Just as long as I'm in this world, I'm the light of this world. Just as long as I'm the light of this world. Just as long as I'm in this world, I'm the light of this world. Hey, thanks a lot, folks.